We have as our speaker today Kyle Lovelace. I've known Kyle for a long time. He's a pollster. We're going to be talking about polling today and some of the other ramifications that go along with that. So anyway, we're really glad to have Aya with us again today, as we had her Monday. And so we want to go ahead and get started. Kyle, tell us a little bit about polling. And kind of, a lot of people do it, even businesses do it, that a lot of people may not understand or know, but give us a little information
Well,
about
a lot of times,
polling and what your company does.
Market research, I mean, what corporate clients, we call them corporate clients, because we have some as well, what they call it is basically market research. And so instead of calling up voters, they'll just call up random people. Or if they want to know what their customers think, they'll contact their customers. And so there's several different ways of doing it. A lot of times, as you know, we've all seen the Dewey v. Truman headline from back in the day.
Yes.
And so people have always had this mistrust. Well, they didn't call me. Well, why would they? I don't believe that poll because they didn't call anybody I know. Well, out of a state of the size of Oklahoma, we generally poll between 800 and 1,000 people of just a Republican primary voter. And so you have to think about it. And it's taken randomly. So there's a computer that randomizes people, and then you also people in by their voting history, and then also where they live, because you want to make sure it's not just Oklahoma City people.
Right.
It's not just Tulsa people. It's not just Western Oklahoma. You have to get basically a demographic accurate picture of the pool that you're marketing or that you're taking, because otherwise the data that you bring back could be skewed. And that's why people a lot of times naturally have a distrust of polls. And so that's something why we've developed a product that is in addition to polling, but basically you take 500, 1,000 responses, ask them a series of questions. And for political campaigns, you ask them, hey, this candidate versus this candidate. And if you knew this about this candidate, does it change your opinion?
That's a push poll, right?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
It is if you if you tell them negative information and then ask them at the end, does it change? And then you only release that, then that is a push poll.
Right.
But if you're just testing the messages, like, well, this works and this doesn't, that's just message testing. That's not necessarily.
In a push poll, you're trying to change voters.
You're
trying to direct them in a particular direction, as opposed to finding what their opinion is at this point.
Correct. You're purposely trying to guide them a certain way.
Right.
Because even the messaging that you're testing, if it's done accurately, it's done balanced. Like, it's not necessarily negative or positive. It's just a statement of fact of this person, believes this or doesn't believe this or whatever. And then you get that response. You make sure that it's aggregated together with the rest of the folks. And then that's where that data comes in for the campaign to make decisions. Oh, seniors believe that we need to get rid of property taxes. Well, this candidate helps us with this, and this candidate doesn't. And so that's where polling comes in.
Okay, so Kyle, let me ask. You mentioned the idea of 800 to 1,000, and then you spoke about 500 to 1,000. Is that for, let's say, a statewide race?
Primary voter? It all depends on how big of the pool that you're doing. Like a congressional race or a smaller race or something like that, you could get down to 500 responses of people. That drives the margin of error up. The lower the number of responses that you take, the higher the margin of error. So in a 1,000-person survey that we've done ones for gubernatorial candidates, the margin of error was 4.2%. And so what that does is when you get it down to 500, that makes it like 5.5 to 6. So that you see what I'm saying. So the lower the number you get,
the greater the error.
Correct.
Okay, but still, let's say it's 1,000. Statewide race. And you mentioned primary voters. I'm just trying to understand the ratios. Like how many primary voters are there?
Well, that is also a kind of a tricky question. Because
Which election?
Because you're asking, okay, a primary person that historically has voted in a primary.
Sure.
That is what we would call a primary likely voter. Now,
Right.
that is probably one of the smaller subsets that you're going to get. Probably the only thing smaller is like municipal, because everything else, a general election is going to be a wider net. And a primary voter, well, I'll take that back. The smaller usually is a runoff voter, because usually from a primary to a runoff, you usually have a drop off.
Yeah, but to get perspective here, I imagine the idea of, let's say in Oklahoma, 500,000 people would vote in the primary. So you'll actually sample 1,000, distribute it, however you do
Correct.
that, your mechanism. But by sampling 1,000, you actually have a pretty good understanding of the 500,000, is what you're saying.
That's what we're saying.
I am so shocked that it's that low of a number.
That's it's scientifically proven that you can within a 95% accuracy, you can make that extrapolation.
Dang, I can pull my neighborhood.
But again, and that's true, but that wouldn't be respective of
The whole
demographics
district,
or
yeah.
age or
Yeah.
people in the Panhandle versus
Right,
southeastern Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And that's also something that there are problems with traditional polling. That's what we call traditional polling. Our company, Eyes Over, also gets into what we believe is the next generation of polling, which is online sentiment. And we collect people's what people say and do online, whether it be Facebook, Twitter, X, comments on TikTok or whatever. We collect that, use AI, put it all together, and give it a score. So that's like taking the next
Better
generation.
start behaving, Aya.
So that's what that does. That's because in polling, there's traditionally inherent problems. People on the far left, people on the far right have a serious distrust of a number that they don't know calling them. So
Right.
they don't answer it.
Right.
Because
How do you get their feel?
because polling used to be 30, 40 years ago, even further, door to door. They would knock on your door and ask. Well, then it changed to phones. Then now it changed to cell phones. Now it's to text. And so, but people are doing it less and less and less. Because I'll tell you, to get to that 1,000 people responses, 10 years ago, you had to call roughly 20,000 people to get that 1,000 person responses. Now it's 40,000. You have to make 40,000 phone calls to get 1,000 people. Well, see, that's why polling costs so much, because you actually have to have somebody making those calls.
Yeah.
So I have a question though. I have found out recently that when I answer those polls, they know exactly who I am.
Yes.
And so I'm just gonna
Well,
I'm gonna
when
throw
they're
out,
calling you, they're calling to want to know what you believe.
but even from the text. So I'm
Correct.
gonna throw out in our right here, our representative Colin Dool has an opponent, Carmen Greider, and so I got one the other day. I'm not really sure who sent it, but I do know if I answered it, which I did not, they would know who answered that.
Generally, yes.
And so
Oh, so
until
it's
now,
not
I
anonymous.
didn't. Until now, I
Yeah.
thought it was all anonymous.
Now, no, that's the difference between the traditional polling. You're not. There's a code of ethics that it is not. It is anonymous. You're not trying. Like if I found out you answered it, I'm not going to track you down and be like, "Hey, you supported this candidate over this." That's not real polling. If it's somebody doing that from the campaign, that's different.
No.
So let me run one down that happened with me recently, and I want to bring these two items up here. I got I can remember if it was a text or an email, and it asked me if you were to vote today, would you vote for Grant Green? And I responded undecided. And then shortly after that, like next day or so, if you were to vote today, would you vote for Jim Shaw? And I tried to respond that I don't live in this district. And it came back and it said, you can only do the things here,
options.
the options here. So I put undecided again. Now here's why. Now I never get materials. Consultants who know me know
Don't waste your time.
don't waste your time and
Right.
things. But this wasn't coming from a consultant. This was a dark money group.
Super PAC.
Yeah,
or something.
super PAC. And so had I have put that I was in favor of Jim Shaw, that would have negated what I said about Grant Green. So I put undecided on both. And for the first time ever, I'm starting to get, mailers.
Well,
Look at that! So
Yeah.
you're
You are
sitting there
special, Charlie.
rigging the polls in order to get the mailers.
Yeah, so
How much of that goes on, Kyle?
I don't get mailers from people, okay? And
Well, how much
so,
of that goes on? Like what Charlie did here,
Yeah.
he's intentionally couching his answer. He's not giving a truthful answer.
Yes.
I won't say he's lying.
Yes.
I would never say
Yes.
that about Charlie.
Well, here's what
How much
I've
of that
done
goes
though.
on?
I've done like where you vote for the other person, like let's just say between Grant Green and Robert Trimble, that I would put that I'm voting for Grant Green so that they would not think they had to work as hard. But now I'm finding out, Robert Trimble might see that and go, oh, so she's not supporting me or whatever.
Yeah.
So I've just stopped altogether. I'm like, I'm-
well,
So here we are, two vote riggers, poll riggers here.
that is, and see again, that is the
Guilty.
inherent problem
Yeah.
with traditional polling,
Yeah.
because on the left you had, and we found this out the last couple of cycles, people did not like to admit they had supported Bernie Sanders, and in 2016, a large chunk of Republicans did not like to admit that they supported Donald Trump. So he was always underpolled, and same with Bernie Sanders, and same with AOC, and the far extremes are always underpolled.
Oh.
Now the problem is that's what has led to what they call basically a community groupthink, where, well, I think what they want me to say is this or whatever, and so people put that down. Well, so that's what the next generation of polling, what Eyes Over is doing, is because people generally, when they go online, they put what they really believe.
Yeah.
Now, there's sarcasm, there's bots, there's things like that, and we filter for that. But generally,
That
when you go
screamed me out
online,
fast.
right? Where you go online, you put your real opinion. Well, I
Yeah.
think this candidate's no good, or whatever, and we monitor that.
yeah, yeah. So anyway,
But yes, but
here
you
we
can
have,
see-
here we have Colin Dewell in this hand and Grant Green in this hand. Now, Grant Green is a terrible state senator. And but this group is a valid group. They are paid for by American Federation for Children Incorporated. They promote all types of vouchers and freedom of choice, homeschooling, different things like that. So they're a good group.
Chuck Hall
All right.
got that too.
So, okay. So here's the point. Here's the point. While this is a good issue and they're right on this issue, and by the way, I know all the opponents of that we're talking about here, and every one of those opponents would be on, if they were the incumbents, they would be here too. Here's the risk. While they're good, this is a single issue organization. While a single issue organization, they could be right on this, they could be wrong on 9 other issues.
Right.
So when it's a single issue organization, please don't pay much attention to it. They've got to do this because they voted their way, and
Unless it's
they
okay
have their-
2A.
They have their back and things like that. So, but
I think Charlie's talking to you, Aya.
Just clearing the air here.
Okay, 2A does get into other things. I mean, I'm not
Yes.
trying to hijack,
Right,
whatever.
they do.
But and I'm
Yeah.
not a member, but I've always, when I was in office, always got endorsed. Got
Why
an award.
aren't you?
I don't know. But anyway, but yes, it's more than just. I should, and you know better than I.
Okay, Kyle, you made a statement about the idea of using AI to evaluate social media.
You caught
That's what we
that.
do.
All right, and-
That's what we do with Eyes Over. Yes.
Right, with eyes, to
Yes.
get the sentiment of what's going on. Now, I had a candidate, because I end up talking to multiple people running for office. That's what we end up doing, right? Imagine that. There was one candidate that told me one time that the voters are not on social media. Now, I don't think they meant that in an absolute fashion, right?
Oh, yes,
Because
they are.
I see Aya all the time on social media.
how many years ago was this?
Well, in 2018, when I ran, they were on there.
This last week,
Oh, okay. Oh.
So, and the reason I see Aya on social media so much is because I confess I'm addicted. I need help. but all the same, is there a I'm not sure what to do with that comment. Is that true? Is it not? Is there just a modest amount of crossover? A lot? What do you think? Between social media and voters.
I think that
Like Charlie's not on social media.
Yeah.
correct.
Yeah, you can come to
Everybody
me for
else is.
counseling. If you're addicted, I can help you off of it. I've never even seen one of our podcasts.
Charlie.
Charlie's going to grab my phone now.
My wife listens to them all the time, but I've never even seen one.
What do you think, Carl? What are your thoughts?
So
on that?
I think that, and it's one of those. It's almost like not a generational thing, but it's becoming more common because the way I was raised and my parents, if they went to a restaurant and it was they got a bad menu, bad service, bad whatever, and they would just never go to that restaurant again. Nowadays, people go on Yelp, people go on Facebook, people tweet the restaurant themselves. Hey, I had a terrible time,
Yep.
and this waiter was a piece of whatever. You know what I'm saying? And so people are more comfortable. Now, I'm not across demographics. People, whether it's old, whether it's young, whether it's whatever, they're more comfortable venting and putting their opinions online, whether it be the Charles McCall banana ad, whether it be the Gettner Drummond Top Gun wannabe Tom Cruise ad, whatever, people when they get a feeling about something or they get multiple mailers from different races, they go online to vent about
Yeah,
it.
but that doesn't really answer my question. Are the preponderance of voters actually using social media?
Yes.
I would say we have found that it is more common. Is it a direct correlation? Is it the exact? No. But what we have found is that it's still the same demographic and breakdown. So you still get the same quality of percentage and the same score level because you're still getting the same percentage of people in different areas. Now,
Okay.
in some areas of whatever, you're going to find there's probably more voters than influencers or whatever. But you're still going to get that same picture from it.
Now I'm going to test it.
Okay, now next question, follow up on that. These two guys have already confessed that they rig the polls when they get the calls. All right? I'm not making such confessions.
He's so honest.
But is the AI evaluation of social media, okay, does that give you a better sampling of where people or voters are at?
Well, what we have found, and also kind of it's again, we're learning every week and learning every day.
The AI is so new.
For example, the last cycle, Ted Cruz was up for reelect, and we noticed that during the presidential campaign, there were people, and it was before my time with the company, but it was during the presidential campaign last cycle that people were saying, "Oh, Joe Biden's doing," and this is from Texas, "Joe Biden's doing great with the border." Okay, well, clearly they were being sarcastic. They were, you know what I'm saying, and clearly, but you could go back. What's nice about our system versus traditional polling, we can train the AI to basically go back and look back at their previous posts and see, okay, is this person a conservative? And then all of a sudden they're saying Joe Biden's great. Okay, something's weird, and it'll flag it. And so that's where what we do with Eyes Over is a little bit different than traditional polling, but. Yes, with those tools, you're able to check those things out.
So that's, but is it more accurate then?
I will tell you this, and we have found that on large volume races, we are more accurate than polling. And I'll tell you, the last November, and I think I may have sent it to Charlie. If not, I'll send it to you guys later. We did a case study of races that we were involved in: New York City mayor, California ballot proposition, the Virginia governor's race, and the New Jersey's governor's race. All big states, all were the ones last November. We were all within 1 or 2 points of that. Now, tell me a pollster that gets that accurate.
Well,
now, also, what's also interesting is, if you remember the last presidential, they were at Mar-a-Lago and they're showing all this stuff. And if you remember correctly, you saw Elon Musk leave at like 8 or 9 o'clock. And people were wondering, well, why is he leaving? He was looking at his phone. Well, he was looking at Eyes Over. Eyes Over told him that the 7 battleground states.
That's your company.
That's our
Eyes
company.
Over.
Before I was involved. Before I was involved.
It's over.
Before eyesover.us. No, anyway.
No, that's good to know. Eyesover.us.
Yeah.
Does that help people can go out there and look at the website?
Yeah.
See what they want to see?
Yep. But he was because we do daily reports for the White House Communications Office. And
Okay.
so we were doing some work for the Trump campaign, and so he was getting those reports, and it showed the 7 battleground states that Trump was going to win. Well, he's kind of he's got some type of, I don't want to say autism, but he's not social. He didn't want to be around. He's like, we won, and so he left. And so that we are more cost effective than traditional polling, and we have found over big races we're more accurate.
That's big races.
Statewide, some congressionals, but yeah,
All right,
we can't narrow down. It usually takes like 500,000 people for our algorithms to work and such.
500,000. So if we have a local race, let's say for a state rep or state senator, that's still a challenge.
It would be for Eyes Over. We could do some polling, and there's things that we could do, but the smaller the race, the more difficult it becomes. Now in Texas and California, their state house and state senate races are 500,000 or more. And so we're doing work in Texas and California right now. We have a candidate in the California governor's race, and so
Steve Hilton is doing quite well there.
that's correct.
500,000.
Kyle, do you own this company?
No, I'm just I'm vice president of sales and accounts.
Okay.
500,000.
So should we reveal your boss's name here?
Oh no, it's perfectly fine. He's
Chris
Wilson
Wilson,
is
yeah.
Chris Wilson's the CEO.
Yeah.
And
Say that again.
Chris Wilson.
Chris Wilson.
His previous firm was WPA Intelligence, and they had a split last year. And when Chris left, he called me up and we sat down, and I've been working for them since February of last year.
So let me tell a story about Chris, okay?
Okay.
Years ago, Chris was actually a member of OPAC for a couple of years.
Okay.
And so I asked him at one point in time, I had breakfast with him, and I asked him, why did you pay dues at OPAC? And he said, well, you were beating the snot out of one of my candidates. And I hoped that if I joined OPAC, he would lighten up on him, but it didn't work.
That's hilarious.
But Chris is, he's from Oklahoma. Anyway, he's really made it big in the polling industry.
It's one of those
It's
things
an
where
amazing thing.
so it's really
Very
so
skilled.
in 20 or even before then, when Obama ran for president, he used a lot of data and a lot of things that predictive analytics that most campaigns weren't even thinking about. Well, Chris and his company then got into that, and so Republicans were slow to do it, and he was one of the first ones to get. He was kind of on the cutting edge. That's why when he left his old company and then went to the Eyes Over, that it was one of the reasons why I went with them, is because this new sentiment analysis and doing social media. That's what we're thinking is the next thing that helps campaigns and helps people get elected.
Yeah. Just as a point of interest here, last month, the Oklahoma Council of Public Affairs had a banquet, and you had a table at that, and you invited me to come. Got to see Emily Compagno with Fox News. I was hoping I'd get to visit with her and everything, but that just didn't happen. And where we sat, you could see her a lot better on TV.
That's why Don Spencer went too, and nobody gave me a ticket, and they didn't get their pictures with her.
But Don sat at our table, yeah. And then I met a young man that works for you who does data analytics.
Yeah, he's on the back end stuff. Yeah,
And so I really was impressed with him. He came to hear Matthew last Wednesday night, and graduate of Christian Heritage Academy. Very impressive young man.
and played football at OU.
Yes, he did. That is true. He mostly was, he said, on special teams.
Yes, yeah.
But you can tell he still spends some time in the gym.
Yeah, yeah.
Get where I need to be. All right, Kyle, I have another question for you. Charlie mentioned before, kind of early on in our conversation, the concept of push polling, and that is really where whoever's conducting this is actually trying to shape opinion. They're actually trying to not find out what people think, but to move them to think a certain way.
That's going to be the campaign themselves doing that, isn't
Yeah.
it? Yeah.
Okay, all right. Now in the area of social media and using AI, I can see you speak about the idea of trying to find out where people are at. Now, this question goes beyond eyes over, all right? And you know what I'm about to ask. Are there other organizations that you're aware of or efforts out there, even if you can't name the group, that are actually doing the equivalent on social media, making comments, trying to direct opinions? Can you comment about that broad area?
I think that there are companies that try to skew online discussions, if that's what you're asking.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure there are. And but we have every step of the way. And I'll just go back, actually the founder of Eyes Over, he's now our chief technical officer. He is a Canadian member of parliament. And he's kind of the guy that came up with the algorithm of that stuff, and that's one thing that we're always making sure does not get. We make sure that there's filters that detect that.
So you're trying to weed through those directed comments that way,
Yeah.
to find out the truth of what people actually believe.
Yeah, or more. We're trying to find the more organic, not the stuff that you can see is generated, and AI can pick up on stuff that is generated from somewhere else that just gets spread versus organic discussions and stuff like that.
Well, allow me to follow up and ask: do you have a sense for what can I say? The percentage of comments that are actually trying to, where they're paid professionals, let's put it that way, and they're actually just trying to steer opinion. It's not neighbors talking to neighbors, friends talking to friends, but people that manage to get into these groups and discussions and are actually intentionally trying to guide a conversation. Is there a percentage that you could say are the comments?
I'm sure there are. I don't know. I would have to check with our team and get back with you because I don't know. I'm sure. I know that we try to do as best we can to, if we're including it, to make sure that it's included with the that it's known, or we have a percentage of, or we give the perspective of that excludes it. Because like on our data set that we have a left, right, and center. So if someone is trying to skew it one way, whether to be disruptive or whether or not, we are able to say, okay, I just want to look from the people that come from a perspective that is conservative or right versus those that are not.
I don't know if you're talking about polling companies specifically or what companies, but I mean, Meta already admitted to this a long time ago. Facebook, during especially the first Trump, well, I guess all three of them, that they really, they actively,
push stories.
Yeah.
They're trying to rig elections like you guys are.
Yeah.
Right?
we learn from the best.
Really?
All right. I don't know if you know this or willing to share this, but which AI engine do you guys use?
Well, it's just proprietary. We designed it ourselves. It's one that we have our design team, and it's one. And here's why: because when we want to tinker with it, or when we want to mess with it, we don't have to go back through and deal with licensing and all this, and make sure that it works with it. What we have is specifically for our product. And so it's done internally. And so what's nice about it versus traditional polling is you can ask it like, hey, this campaign's progressing really well over these 4 or 5 days. What's the top 3 reasons why? Oh, it'll come back and tell you this, whatever. And so,
but again, 500,000 or more people, right?
Correct. But that's again a statewide race, for governor or whatever. Because like for instance, in the governor's race in California, I want to say in the last 7 days, last time I checked, there were like 15,000 data points. So you have to think that 15,000 versus like the 1,000 for traditional polling. And this is on a regular basis. And you can go back and ask the questions, hey, why did things move? Or why did this candidate dive? Or, whatever. So
I'm trying to think of the smaller centers, probably congressional. Because they're all about the same size around the country.
Population-wise, they're off a few points here and there.
Yeah, that would be...
Because they're just like, if I think right, it's like 700,000. But yeah.
Right, okay.
But yeah.
primary voters? Or-
No, just population. It
Just
could be.
population.
It could be. They even count illegals.
Yeah. So,
That skews it.
The
But,
census
you know,
does.
yeah, I'm sorry.
That's-
can vote
the
too.
census. The census does count illegals.
That's right. That's unfortunate.
It's just the way that it goes.
We're trying,
now they're
trying to get it changed.
Correct.
Yeah. So I want to ask a question on congressional races, which in Oklahoma we have 7 congressional races because
5 congressional, 2
U.S.
Senate,
Senate is
yeah.
they're part of Congress.
Yeah.
So they all poll, I'm sure.
Correct.
What percentage of your statewide races poll?
Well, as many as I can sell.
I understand. But whether, but,
How much money?
But no, what I would
but
say,
whether it's
no,
you or a competitor.
I would say what I always tell people: if you're running statewide, you should be spending, or any you should be spending 10 to 15% on research and data, because I don't think if you don't know the map to victory and you don't know this,
Right.
you could be saying I'm for tax cuts, and your voters don't care about that. They want to know about
Yeah.
education or something different, then you're really losing whatever. So I always tell people, if you're running statewide, you need to be spending 10 or 15%. Now whether they take that advice, I would say governor, lieutenant governor, attorney generals are doing regular polling. Lower than that, it really just kind of depends on their budget.
So now my next one is, what percentage of the state senators do polling?
Well, the problem with the state Senate district, and this is one thing that my boss has said, is that by getting that small, you're still talking about 3,000 or 4,000 people. Mm-hmm. Well, go back to again, if it takes 10,000 calls of 10,000 people, there's just not
The
enough
expense,
people.
yeah.
And so the expense, it becomes problematic.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
your sample size becomes 150 to 200. Well, that makes your margin of error 6 or 7%.
Yeah.
So it kind of, you have to balance that.
Probably almost no state representatives do. And having been with the conservative, your most conservative, tending to be your underfunded candidates for many years,
Generally.
they just don't do polling.
Right.
That's just something we've
Well,
never done.
I don't think when I ran, I don't think I did. I did voter ID programs, which is kind of what we call now analytics, and we're able to do the cross section and get all the, what moves people and what the demographics are and that kind of thing.
When I ran for re-election as a county commissioner, you contacted me and told me that in my district, Governor Stitt had a 67% approval rate, which is one reason I sought and received his endorsement.
Yeah.
And then you did some texting for me.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I had more people contact me angry at getting a text from me than mail or anything else. I don't know why, but
Because they actually looked
You
at it.
actually read them, what do you do with the text? How do you filter it?
Yeah.
So, but anyway, well, it's so you've done what's that you can report. What's the latest poll on, say, a statewide race that you can report?
The only, we've got a couple clients statewide, and we've done some polling, but I'm not at liberty to say on those. But I mean, there's polling going on in the governor's race, and if you notice, the public poll, the last one was in February. So what does that tell you? That tells you that things are tightening up. And so, because if one person was way out in the lead, like it was in the past, they would probably put it out there.
So I'm
It's
gonna
interesting.
the most recent poll I've seen on that, Gettner Drummond was at about 36% of the vote, and it appeared that that's what he'd been the whole time. Doesn't seem to matter how much advertising,
Right.
or anything he does, he doesn't move it much past that. And then I think you had Charles McCall at like 16%. Keating was at 15%, and Maisie was at 14%. So they were real close together there. Jake Merrick was up from
Right.
2 to 5.
Right.
And so, but I keep seeing the commercials now. At that poll, Keating hadn't done any commercials yet.
Right.
I'm not impressed with his commercials, to be honest with you.
You never have to wonder what Charlie's thinking. Just saying.
I'm not impressed with them. In fact, the one that right now just it actually irritates me when he says we should be selling our energy to our allies, not buying energy from our enemies, China, Russia, and Iran. I'm sorry, we don't buy any energy from them, and we already sell our energy to our, So
Right.
I'm not impressed with that one, and some of the others. I'm just So what? You were a highway patrol. You're running for governor now. Tell me what you're going to do and how you're going to do it. I think Maisie. I think his ads have been the best. And I think it's pulled him up. At one time, he was tied with Jake Merrickett, too.
Yeah.
And, man, he's pulled up. His ads are
The ads are good.
fantastic.
But you also, I mean, he's in the last 90 days. He spent like $2-3 million on it.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it is the ad, But yes,
Yeah.
it makes a difference.
Yeah, it really does. Do you have any idea, any thoughts where change might have happened since that one? Was that the February poll?
Yeah, that was in February.
Okay.
And McCall was, I think, was in number 2, but those.
Yeah.
And there's probably going to be some changing between that. I would still say Drummond's probably going to have a lead just because he can generate press whenever he wants, and that's the challenge that the others can't. Like he can get on 4, 5, and 9 here locally. Another pot bust or whatever.
Yeah.
And he puts on
Yeah.
a police jacket and whatever,
Yeah.
and so. That's just the way it is. And when you've run statewide 3 times, which he has,
Yeah.
you have that advantage.
Yeah.
And also, no one has gone negative against him. That's something else that hasn't happened yet. I would imagine real soon it's going to.
Well,
But-
let me throw my analysis out here, and you pick it apart here.
Charlie's coming out of the closet once again.
So I believe that any of those 3 can beat Gettner Drummond. And here's why I say that. He's the only one in office. He kind of has that aura of being an incumbent. And so, as you know, anytime, or not anytime, but 85% of the time, if an incumbent doesn't win in the primary election, they lose in the
Right.
the runoff. Well, let's look at this here now. You've got he's at 36, and I believe that if he gets in, there will be a runoff.
Yeah.
I think about 42% is the most he can get in a runoff.
Well, if you remember correctly, when it started in February of last year, he was at 52.
Okay. Oh,
But
so
it's
he's
come down
Okay.
since then.
Okay.
Now,
As Jake Merrick goes up, he's coming down. Is that
well,
what you're saying?
I know I'm saying Gettner's gone down since last year anyway, just because at the time he was the only statewide. Anyway,
Yeah, yeah.
That was my own version of a push poll.
Yeah.
But that being said, it seems like Drummond has a ceiling.
Yeah.
And that ceiling is probably low 30s, or high 30s,
Yeah.
low 40s.
Yeah.
Now, when getting to a runoff, then and if we get into a runoff, we'll see. Does the president get involved? We'll see.
So most of the people that I speak with right now on this race, and when I ask them who you're supporting, they're going to Maisie. And here's the thing. Now we have a lot of people that like Jake Merrick very much. The problem with this, Jake is not going to win.
Well, wait a minute. Most of the people I speak to like Jake Merrick.
Yeah, hang on a
So-
second.
Because you don't talk to
Let me
people
finish.
you don't like.
Let me finish here. They like Jake, but Jake is not going to win. And so here's the thing. Let's say, who would you, if you know Jake
second
is not
choice.
going to get your
Yeah.
second choice. If you think one of those 3 is the best, if you vote for Jake, you are not being realistic in supporting who you think should be in the runoff against Drummond. And so you can vote for Jake if you want to, but I'm telling you, he's not going to win. He has no chance to win.
Well, yeah, Charlie, that's that classic
Zero.
question. Do you vote for the winning horse, or do you vote based on principle? And it's obviously my question that way, or my comment is skewed. It kind of reveals something in there, but that is
The principled vote is to vote for the very best person that has a chance
Right.
to win.
Oh.
That's the real
the very
principled
best
vote, in my
person that's
opinion.
bought out with the most amount of money in consultants and
Look,
special interest groups, right?
Jake was foolish to run for this. He never had a chance to run because he doesn't have any money to be able
Here's
to
what,
go.
I'm not saying, I'm not disagreeing with you,
Yeah.
but I think if you're going to run a truly grassroots campaign like Jake has,
Yeah.
and not accept PAC money, which Jake says he had, which I'm weird because he did when he was a state senator, but that's the highest point. You need to start like 2 years before. You need to, if you're gonna, you need to build a movement.
He
That's
had,
what you-
he had a movement on his radio
But
program.
again, if you're going to take on Mazie, who can drop 3 million, Keating, who's going to drop 2 million or 3, McCall, who's going to drop, who knows how much Drummond's going to drop on their campaign. If you're going to take on, add that up, that's $10 million. If you're going to take that on,
The high profile.
you've got to build an army statewide for a long period of
Yeah,
time,
early on,
and he has not.
Yeah.
He
And-
stayed on the radio for as long as he could, and then got off.
Yeah.
Well, the problem was, I mean, he should have probably been spending the last year saying that. And that's one of those things. If you're going to do it, he needed to decide it a year and a half to 2 years ago, and run. And now he's running against money.
Yeah. He had a lot of influence on radio. He had a tremendous amount of influence on radio. And he could influence many different races and things. That audience, he had at least 125,000 or so on that, just on radio, not counting his podcast or social media or things like that. And he had a lot of influence. But,
Right.
But anyway.
But no, I like Jake. I think he's a good
I
guy.
do too. I do too. We've had him on this
yeah.
on the podcast here, and but anyway,
Now,
But yeah, when you're out-
I did want to say something about your comment, because what you just said, Bob, was you put your vote behind the winning horse, and I want to come back to that, because I think what Charlie is saying is right now you've got probably a couple of people neck and neck, and what Charlie's saying is there's 3 options, and let's just say the person you really want is kind of like second place there, then you're not really voting for the winning horse, but you're voting for the one that you want to beat that guy. No, people are saying everyone but Drummond.
Yeah.
So let's just say you don't like the second place contender and you like the third place one.
Yeah.
Then if you vote for a non-contender, then you're completely
out of the picture of picking the second best
and
person.
it's a tough place for grassroots
Yes,
people
right.
to be. You know, it's a
Right.
very tough place
Right.
for sure.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Because
I've
I'm
heard
just saying,
discussions with folks on that idea.
I would consider myself, when I ran a conservative candidate and the grassroots candidate, I was outspent 5-1, and I would knock doors for 2.5 years beforehand, and I almost won my first time. Came within 100 votes, and
Ouch.
well, then I ran again and won without any opposition. But the point of the matter is, that's what it takes.
Right.
And that's on a state senate race. But on a statewide race, it takes, and I'm not, and I don't know if it was a family decision. And then that's, here or there, we're already past it. I just don't know that,
Well, the key on a state house or state senate race, a person that's willing to knock doors can make the difference on that.
Yes.
Several years ago, Randy Terrell was running for a state house seat, and you had the vice mayor of Moore, and there were about 4 or 5 candidates. Randy Terrell knocked on every likely voting door 4 times. I remember the story when he came up to this house, had his sign in the front yard, and the guy was sitting on the porch, says, "Randy, what are you doing here on my porch? You've been here so much, my dog doesn't even bark at you anymore." But Randy made and he won that race in the primary. And there was all kinds of money, high-profile people, and things like that trying to take him out. but he made the difference because he's on the doorstep of every likely voter 4 times.
And that he was.
Yep, yep. And anyway, any other questions, you guys?
So, I'm just curious about the cost.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we haven't mentioned that at all. So, on let's just say a statewide race, I'm interested in to have you guys do a poll.
Okay.
And also, you mentioned
eyes over.
separate a poll versus only analytics.
Mm-hmm.
If someone pays you, can they get those analytics only? And what does
yeah.
that cost look like?
Now, see so let me. The poll is for statewide would be 1,000 people, 20 questions, 20 to 30 questions. That's going to cost you between $20,000 to $25,000. So that's cost prohibitive on certain races.
Mm-hmm.
Analytics, doing predictive analytics, instead of doing 1,000 or 800, you're getting 4,000 or 5,000 people, and you're asking them. And the reason what you're doing there is you're actually taking that on the granular level, and then you're extrapolating that out. And what you're saying here's 100,000 people that you can target that match those people
Those
here
needs, yeah.
that are persuadable.
Mm-hmm.
And these are the people that are persuadable. These are the people that support you. These are the people that support your opponent. These are the people that are not going to vote no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
So don't worry about them. And then like here's this big target that are diehards. They're going to vote. You just got to win them over. And so that one there is a little more expensive.
More expensive, okay.
You go like firm support, firm opposition, undecided but leaning one way
Yeah.
or the other. You go
Correct.
those 5 choices.
And then also again, it's a gradient where there's different levels, and it basically what we do is we give the candidate, here's this huge data set. Here's those 100,000 or 80,000 the people that were leaning your way, and we give them their name, their phone number, their email, all that stuff that we have.
Yeah.
And then you can go out and do the direct mail, or you can do the door knocks, or you can do the whatever.
So let me ask you this. Do you ever, let's just say from the grassroots perspective, do you ever have someone just come to you and go, look, I've got $5,000. Tell me for this price, just whatever you can tell me for that.
Yeah, we would do a small project for them. It would be what we would do is probably try to basically get the data set of who we would predict, like a turnout model, who's going to be, who are going to go vote, and then just match that up. So,
Okay.
I have a question for you, Kyle. Now, this is of you personally, your own opinion.
Sure.
All right. Not necessarily based on studies of eyes over, but
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it has some bearing, but you may have a feel for this.
Okay.
Okay. And that is we have a primary in a couple months. Mm-hmm. So at
58 days or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
a couple months counts.
Yeah.
57.
What do you think in terms of seats lost or gained, let's say by, the Republican Party within each chamber, all right, or even the Freedom Caucus? Okay, do you believe they have a fair chance of gaining more seats, losing the Republican Party, winning or losing seats? What is your sense on that?
I think that the House has a better chance of gaining seats than the Senate does, the state Senate. I think that the state Senate, I think you're going to maybe gain. You might gain, but you probably won't. But all I know is that, and we talked a little bit before we started recording about Greg Treat. So when Greg Treat ran, and then we get Standridge, and then McCourtney, and then it's gotten close. It's like within 1 or 2 votes, just about every time. When I was there wasn't a Liberty Caucus, and you had just like 5 or 6 or 8 of us, and we just kind of caused trouble when we could. But
they're causing trouble now.
Well, I know, but my point is, it's really close to being tipped over. To where the conservative, 1 or 2 seats will make a world, and 1 or 2 primaries could make a difference.
Right.
Okay, we know that.
Yeah.
For those who can follow it.
As far as who's going to be the next president pro tem.
Right.
Right. So but You kind of didn't answer my question. Do you get a sense of where you think that might go? It could go one way or the other.
Bob, what I thought you were saying is picking up Democrat seats or
there were two
losing
questions in
Republicans.
there. Number one, it was
Yeah.
R's versus D's in each chamber.
The R
But then
versus the real
the whole
Rs.
idea of the Freedom Caucus, and I mean both chambers, right? Because there are members in both chambers.
A lot more in
How
the
might
Senate.
that lean one way
Yeah.
or the other? So I meant it as a little bit broader thought. What do you think?
It's a tough one, isn't it?
I would think that the Senate's getting more and more. I mean, the Senate's getting more. Leadership's getting more and more bold. Like I've never known a Senate leadership getting involved in a primary against an incumbent, and they've done that against Dusty Devers.
Yep.
Sure.
And I wasn't, and I think Dusty's done a good job, and I don't know of any
Very
reason
conservative.
why, but whatever. He has an opponent, and a member of leadership has given them money. Well, in a caucus behind the doors, that's going to ruffle some feathers of some people that would normally be like, well, I'm going to support leadership. But if leadership's doing those types of things, sometimes it goes, once you get into caucus, it is very strange in that you get people that you think are going to act a certain way and they don't. And meaning they could be they want to align themselves. They want to be who wins. And it's
Betting on a winning horse again.
they want to have a chairman's gavel.
Right.
And so they don't really care who's in control. They just want to make sure they back the right person. And so it's one or two people. And this is what I've told both leadership and the other. You need to win. If you're going to win, you need to have like a safe majority, meaning of the caucus.
Yeah.
That way you can govern. And that's why I've told Bullard and Dom and Jet is you don't need to just win it by one. You need to win it by 5 or 6 or 7.
Yeah.
And I don't think either side feels super secure right now.
That's correct.
Right. So
It's-
let me
it's
throw
interesting.
something out here. And right now, our Senate is the most conservative it's ever been, I believe. And should the election go to where David Bullard would be the next president pro tem, I think it kicks that up even more, considerably more, to the point that I think there's a possibility you could have a majority in the Senate at that time that would be immune from the special interest groups that try to run the leadership in the Senate.
Yeah.
I could be wrong about that, but it's going to be the closest we've ever been, I think, to that.
That'll be interesting to see. Right? The day should come. Let's say the Freedom Caucus did actually have the numbers. And how do the special interests and the lobbyists of all these various companies, how do they respond? Do they change their approach towards state senators? They're not going to pack up their bag and go home.
No, they won't. But one of the things that we're seeing is more and more candidates are taking the no lobbyist pledge.
We do, yeah, we are seeing that.
And the more that becomes an issue in a race, then more and more people will use it, and then it just puts a better quality of people. I was in March. I was at the Hideaway in Stillwater, and one of our waitresses is from Hennessy. Well, I'm certainly supporting a candidate that covers Hennessy. And so I said, I want to get you something. So I got the campaign piece for him, and I brought to her, and I pointed out there the no lobbyist pledge on this, And she doesn't live there, but her mom and dad and her brother and sister do, and they're all Republican voters. She said, that is vital. So I gave her 2 of them to give to them to, help influence that vote there. But that no lobbyist pledge, it really rings.
All right, we're coming up on the close of our hour. I wanted to find out if you have any closing comments. Any closing comments, thoughts?
No, this has been very, very interesting and enlightening to me, so thank you.
Glad to do it.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where part of my job is, I try to help as many, when we try to sign clients, we try to sign the most conservative that can win. That's who we try to sign. And so that's
Say that again?
The most conservative that can win.
That's who you try to.
That's who we pursue as clients.
Interesting. Okay. Good to
Well,
know.
that's good to hear. Eyesover.us. All right. I'm gonna have to go check out the website.
Well,
Charles,
when it
closing
gets
thoughts?
when it gets really close to the general election, in
See if Chris will
November,
come on.
we want Chris on this program.
Okay.
Yeah. So, all right.
And I appreciate if you'd be willing to open up and share even some of the results.
So,
Well, I'll pull out 15% of my campaign funds,
Yeah.
which is about $1.380.
so next Monday and Wednesday of next week, I anticipate we will have candidates for statewide office on both of those days. So, all right.
Looking forward. Take care, all.
Thank you, folks.
Bye bye.